Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Today, I want to talk to you about friendly bacteria versus candida and the fermented foods that help you win the fight against candida. So, candida in balance, we need small, tiny amounts of candida. It's a word that really sparks fear, but the truth is candida isn't bad. It's just, in fact, we actually need it. It lives in balance in the body. We need small amounts of it to help us digest things that our regular digestive system can't handle, like heavy metals. And candida can handle that. So we need small amounts of it. But when candida outgrows its boundaries, that's when our troubles begin. It can lead to fungal infections. Candida can spread throughout the intestines and also the sinuses, like a fungus, and even penetrate into the bloodstream. And they've even found that a lot of the yeast infections that kids get or people get is caused by fungus or candida. And once the fungus is there, once that candida is there, it releases toxin byproducts into the body that trigger fatigue, brain fog, digestive distress, sinus problems, and more. So what's the solution? Here's the solution that everybody needs to understand. Having lots and lots of good bacteria, which you're supposed to have, keeps candida in check. It keeps it from spreading out and growing into places it doesn't belong. And building up the good bacteria in your body with a lot of cultured foods can become a very powerful weapon that can clean house and bring you back into balance. Now, women in yeast infection is a problem that happens a lot. And the balance is important for women to keep the vaginal microbiome and protective bacteria, especially Lactobacillus species, to keep them in a nice balance because they produce lactic acid that lowers the pH, creates a hostile environment for pathogens like candida. And when, a lot of women have to take antibiotics for yeast infections, and I understand that. I'm not against that, but it does wipe out all the protective bacteria. So candida suddenly has room to grow because all the good bacteria is gone. And that's why yeast infections are a common side effect of antibiotics. The same is true in the gut. Without enough good bacteria, candida takes over. So you want to ensure a steady stream of beneficial microbes through cultured foods that helps prevent this cycle of imbalance. Now, fermented foods to help balance candida is really important. Some probiotics are very aggressive in keeping candida under control. And here are the 4 strongest species that work the best to keep candida in control. Cultured vegetables, which is rich in Lactobacillus plantarum, huge for helping control candida. Specialty yogurts, and these 2 special ones, Lactobacillus reuteri and Lactobacillus gasseri, very important. They have antifungal properties in them. And then Saccharomyces boulardii, which is in kefir soda, and sometimes it's in kombucha too, but it's in weaker amounts. But Saccharomyces boulardii is a very effective candida killer. Now, let's talk about these a little bit more so you understand. So Lactobacillus plantarum is very effective. It is one of the most powerful defenders against candida, and it flourishes it's the main species in cultured vegetables. It is things like sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, fermented greens, any fermented vegetable, and especially if you use a starter to do it. Kefir whey, a lot of people do it with kefir whey to make cultured vegetables, but kefir whey doesn't have as much Lactobacillus plantarum as, say, using a starter culture, the cutting-edge starter culture does, because it has other bacteria species in the kefir whey that kind of compete with it a little bit. So if you're really struggling with candida, I recommend getting the starter because you're going to get a lot more. You're going to quadruple the amounts of Lactobacillus plantarum, which is what you want. And it's the most dominant microbe that creates billions of bacteria in cultured vegetables. So let me explain to you how this works. So it produces hydrogen peroxide and antifungal peptides that directly kill candida. It breaks down candida's biofilms, exposing it so it can no longer hide because it likes to hide in dark little corners. So it crowds candida out by binding to the intestinal wall, stimulates an immune defense, making your body more resilient against fungal overgrowth, And even a small amount, like a few bites of cultured vegetables or a spoonful of the juice, can deliver more L. plantarum than many, many supplements, along with the prebiotic fibers to help those microbes thrive. So if you really want to make Lactobacillus plantarum really strong in your vegetables, add a little bit of Prebio Plus or some inulin, like a little scoop of it to your veggies, and it makes it really flourish and grow because it makes it multiply. Now, another really effective one is Lactobacillus reuteri, and it has become one of the most exciting probiotic foods in the recent years because it's basically new. And Dr. Davis developed the formula for it. He's great. And while technically it's not a yogurt by definition, it's really more of a fermented dairy. It's one of the most potent cultured foods I've ever worked with. It's amazing. It's different from kefir. Kefir has more probiotics in it, but L. reuteri, this single strain, it sets itself apart by colonizing the upper GI tract rather than the colon, and an area where Candida often thrives. That's a place Candida loves to live. And research has shown how reuteri can eliminate 5 of the 6 most common oral Candida species, the ones that live in your sinuses and your mouth, making it especially helpful for oral and small intestinal Candida issues. But it's now being studied for the treatment of SIFO, which is small intestinal fungal overgrowth. And it's characterized by the presence of an excessive number of fungal organisms in the small intestine associated with a lot of GI problems or gastrointestinal problems. It also supports immune defenses, so it helps the body recognize and respond more effectively to Candida overgrowth. Okay, now let's talk about Lactobacillus gasseri. That is another powerful ally in keeping Candida under control. It is naturally present in the human gut. It's also available in these yogurts you can make, similar to L. reuteri, and it's made with this specific strain of L. gasseri, which again is a fermented dairy, not really a yogurt, but it tastes like a yogurt. And it makes it a unique ability to defend its territory in the intestines, blocking Candida from taking over completely. So not every strain works the same, which is why strain quality can matter sometimes. The starter we use contains either the well-researched BNR-17 strain or an equivalent strain that has been carefully tested for 2 critical abilities: producing natural antifungal compounds and binding effectively to intestinal walls. Both of these characteristics help it hold Candida at bay and keep your gut environment balanced. How it works? It competes with Candida for adhesion sites on the intestinal wall, blocking its ability to stick and spread. It produces lactic acid and bacteroideans, which lower gut pH so Candida cannot thrive. It strengthens the gut barrier, tightening the junctions between cells to prevent Candida from leaking into the bloodstream, which it can do very effectively. It modulates immune responses, helping the body recognize and control Candida. Think of L. gasseri as a bouncer in your gut, holding Candida at bay while supporting gut line integrity. So now the next one is Saccharomyces boulardii, and that is one of the most researched probiotics worldwide and is a very unique probiotic because it's a good yeast. It's not a bacteria. And unlike Candida albicans, it's not harmful, and in fact, it works directly against Candida. So even though Candida is a yeast too, this is a good yeast that works against it. So in a healthy gut, yeast only make up about 0.1% of the microbiome. When Candida overgrows, it reduces gut acidity, creating a friendly environment for itself and other harmful microbes. S. boulardii does the opposite. It produces acids that lower gut pH, keeping Candida in check. It works by displacing Candida, breaking down its protective biofilms, reducing the harmful toxins the Candida releases, and one of the most effective ways to get S. boulardii is through kefir soda made with this yeast. We have that in our soda. And unlike kefir sodas made only with kefir whey, our special sodas contain added S. boulardii, making it far more potent, whilst kefir whey doesn't have that. In fact, the homemade versions is often stronger and more effective than the capsule supplements. So it works very, very well to compete with Candida. So again, here's how it works. It competes directly with Candida, taking up adhesion sites in the gut so Candida can't attach and spread. It breaks down the biofilms, like I said before, disrupts those protective layers. Candida builds around itself, making it easier to eliminate. It produces antifungal compounds, generates organic acids like lactic and acetic acid that creates an environment hostile to Candida, reduces Candida toxins, helps neutralize harmful byproducts Candida releases when it overgrows, because it can give off like 80 toxins. It's bad when it starts to die off, and it helps to reduce that. And it boosts immune defenses, increases IgA, an antibody that strengthens your body's frontline defense against Candida and other pathogens. Now, here's a big question that people ask me: how much do I take? And really, why starting slowly matters. So having a lot of good bacteria is the best way to keep Candida under control. Those beneficial microbes are going to prevent Candida from spreading to where it doesn't belong and help restore balance to the body. By regularly enjoying cultured foods, you can build up this army of good bacteria very effectively and easily. And it's a powerful tool that helps clean house and bring your microbiome back into harmony. But when you've got a lot of Candida and you need extra help, adding Candida-fighting probiotic fermented foods is really important to start slowly. So when it dies off, like I said before, it releases toxins such as acetaldehyde. That can make you temporarily feel worse. And this reaction is called a die-off or Herkimer reaction. And it's when bacteria and yeast start to die off, it can cause fatigue, brain fog, bloating, watery eyes, or sinus irritation. Those symptoms are really usually short-lived, and it's a sign that the bad bacteria and yeast are leaving the body, and your system is working towards balance. So it's a good thing, but it doesn't feel great sometimes, especially if you have a lot of imbalance. So for more on that, I have a whole article called The Healing Crisis, and I'll put that in the article, and you can find that in the link description. You'll be able to go see that. And to minimize this problem, I would start with one of these foods every other day or every couple of days. So you can even just pick one. You can use cultured veggies. Start with 1 to 2 teaspoons of the brine or small bites of the veggies, then gradually increase to bigger forkfuls or spoonfuls. You could do one of the yogurts, reuteri or gasseri. Reuteri, I think, is slightly better, maybe a lot more better. I don't really know for sure, but I do know that it's very effective in killing Candida. So start slowly with those, and you could just pick one. You don't have to do both, but you could do both. Maybe a couple spoonfuls a day. You can work your way up to a half a cup or a cup if you really want extra help. But just do them every other day or every couple of days. And then kefir soda with S. boulardii, the one you make. Try 1/4 of a cup at first, and then increase to 1/2 to 1 cup as you tolerate it. And you can have as much as you want after that, but just start out very slowly. And the same with all of these foods. The key is consistency. A little bit each day gives your body time to adjust, allows the Candida to die off more gently, and allows the beneficial microbes to take over at a steady pace. And that's what we're looking for, balance. So these are just a few of the suggestions, and these are the strongest ones that work against Candida. Often some of the other formulas, I know that certain oils like oregano oil kills Candida, but it almost acts like an antibiotic. So it can be kind of hard on you and maybe kill off some beneficial things that you need. And it can make you feel pretty bad, because I've done this before a long time ago. And so I recommend these foods because they have the probiotics. They don't harm your microbiome, but they make it grow and increase, which is going to just crowd out all the bad stuff and keep in the good stuff. And that's the secret. That's why you have a microbiome that's 10 trillion bacteria. They're just everywhere inside of you. And they're here to protect you and to keep you safe, keep you in balance. And you can do that easily by having these fermented foods. You can also have things like kefir. That's going to help. That's also going to crowd out the bacteria, because there's so many species in there of good bacteria. And it actually has Lactobacillus plantarum in it. And it just has so many other species, so it's not as strong because they all kind of compete for dominance. So anyway, those are just a few things that I thought could help people who are really struggling with this and just generally wanting to feel better. And cultured foods are so amazing. And I hope you'll give it a try if you're struggling with this, because it's a little bit of a process, but it's so worth the effort because it'll make you feel so much better. So have a great week, guys, and we'll talk to you next time.